Hey, 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 today is National Best Friends Day. Wow, National Best Friends Day. I would think that every day should be kind of a National Best Friends Day, but I guess not. So I'm going to take this moment to say hello to my very best friend, Elliot Miller from voiceofe.com. Happy National Best Friends Day, buddy. And on that note, I also want to add the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm Jeff McAleer. I'm back once again as your host here at the Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I just happen to be the Grand Poobah. So, it is Friday. June 8th. Welcome aboard. Got a big show ahead of us. I've got loads going on. I've got news. I'm going to talk a little bit about my Origins coverage that's going to be coming up. And I am going to unbox and take a first look at Armageddon War from Flying Pig Games. So pretty pumped about that. It's a title that I've been looking forward to. And I'm actually going to show off a slew of stuff that Flying Pig did send me. In fact, I just got it yesterday, so I'm pretty excited. And the box is way back here because it is a big box. It is a good-sized box. Anyway, so, a lot of news today. Going to open up with a news piece that probably is not going to be very good news for most gamers out there, especially most gamers out there who enjoy Android Netrunner, the living card game from Fantasy Flight Games, because earlier today, Fantasy Flight Games announced that they will not be supporting or offering the game any longer very shortly. And here's the dope from FFG. In 2012, Fantasy Flight Games launched Android Netrunner, the card game. With innovative mechanics revised from the classic collectible card game combined with the dystopian cyberpunk future of the Android universe, Android Netrunner has enthralled thousands of players over the course of its 2 core sets, a campaign expansion, 5 deluxe expansions, and 8 cycles of data packs. Wizards of the Coast has been a fantastic partner to us over the past 6 years, and we at Fantasy Flight Games are incredibly thankful to them for letting us play with the game system that they pioneered. However, as much as we have enjoyed developing Android Netrunner, our current licensing term is coming to an end, and today, Fantasy Flight Games must announce the end of Android Netrunner, the card game. Starting on October 22nd, 2018, Fantasy Flight Games will no longer offer for sale any Android Netrunner, the card game products, including Android Netrunner playmats and card sleeves. Before we reach that point, Android Netrunner still has one final stop to make. The Reign and Reverie Deluxe expansion will be the final product for the game. Featuring cards for every faction, Reign and Reverie is a celebration of all things Android Netrunner, and an appropriately climactic conclusion to the game's 6-year run. What's more, well, Android Netrunner is coming to an end. The worlds of Android will continue to be explored, from the gritty streets of San to the warring colonies of Mars, in future products from Fantasy Flight Games. As Android Netrunner, the card game, draws to a close, organized play for the game is also coming to an end. So, bad news there for fans of Android Netrunner. I'll be the first to admit, I never had an opportunity to play the game. I do know, I'm trying to remember which correspondent I had back at that point in time that did a review for it. Really, really enjoyed it. A lot of people really dug it. It wasn't kind of a traditional living card game in the respects of most FFG card games. So pretty popular. If you want to find out more about some of the folks who were involved in Android Netrunner, the card game's thoughts about the licensing agreement coming to an end, feel free to swing over to fantasyflightgames.com. There's quite a bit. There's a couple of individuals who are involved in the game talking about this. As far as what happened behind the scenes, I don't know. I'm taking a stab. Asmodee is probably tightening up who they've got licensing agreements with. They probably don't want too many outside of, say, I don't know, Lucasfilms, Disney with Star Wars. So it might have been that. It might have been Wizards of the Coast deciding, hey, you know what? We want to do our own Netrunner thing. But whatever incarnation Netrunner may pop up in the future, it will not be Android. It will not be based on the Android IP, which my best friend, National Best Friends Day, Elliot Miller really digs that whole Android setting. And in fact, he really liked the original game from FFG. I know there were quite a few people who weren't overly keen on it, but Elliot dug it a lot. I remember he reviewed it on thegaminggang.com. One thing I forgot to mention, there is chat available, so if you are hanging out watching the stream live, by all means, say hello, or if you have a question or want a closer look at something when I'm doing my unboxing and first look at Armageddon War, by all means, say howdy. Chat is available through YouTube. It is not on screen because that's how I keep some of the oddball comments at bay. All right, moving right along. There's a Kickstarter that's out that looks pretty interesting. It's from designer Richard Borg and the UK-based The Plastic Soldier Company, and they've teamed up to bring the latest design in the Commands and Colors lineup to Kickstarter. And here's the dope on Red Alert. Richard Borg heads into space in this exciting new Commands and Colors board game, including 2 complete fleets of plastic starships, 92 models. Red Alert allows 2 to 6 players to duke it out in space using the opposing fleets of the Commonwealth Alliance and the Rebel Confederation. Battleships, cruisers, and destroyers backed up by long-range fighters and the fleet commander's all-important flagship. Each unit type has its own special capabilities. If you've already played any of Richard Borg's Commands and Colors games, you'll be very familiar with Red Alert. And if you've not, Commands and Colors is an easy-to-learn, card-driven wargame series. It uses a hex grid game board divided into 3 sections, a center and 2 wings. The command cards in your hand determine which section, or sections, you can activate units, and how many units you may activate when you play that card. The play of these command cards drives the action and creates a fog of war. I disagree with that. It creates more of, I don't want to say a simulation, but it gives more of a feeling of command control as opposed to fog of war, because fog of war is usually you don't know what you're up against. Then again, that's how I have always seen fog of war. Anyhow, combat is fast, simple, and somewhat deadly. In addition to the hits scored when you roll your battle dice, Red Alert icons rolled represent non-fatal crises aboard a ship, such as collateral damage, shields going down, and engineering issues that need to be resolved. Combat cards give players all manner of sci-fi themed advantages, add an element of suspense, and challenge players to maintain their star token reserves to power decisive actions throughout the battle. The action on a combat card may hinder the opposition forces, enhance a player's units, or instantly change the course of a battle. Red Alert is actually already well over 150% funded. There is it's about a 2-minute video that has been put together by the Plastic Soldier Company about this project. So let's kick back and take a look.
Hi, I'm Anita from PSC Games, and I'm delighted to be announcing our latest Kickstarter campaign, Richard Borg's Red Alert Space Fleet Warfare. Red Alert sees Richard's hugely successful and popular Commands and Colors system heading into space, allowing 2 to 6 players to fight big fleet action between the Commonwealth Alliance and the Rebel Confederation. Red Alert comes with 92 plastic starships moulded in the opposing side's colours. Each fleet includes battleships, cruisers and destroyers backed up by long-range fighters and the fleet commander's all-important flagship. The play of command cards drives the action on the game's hex mat and creates a fog of war, while battle dice resolve combat quickly and efficiently. Combat cards add an element of suspense. These cards may hinder the opposition forces, enhance a player's units, or instantly change the course of a battle. Task Force cards allow players to quickly deploy and customise their fleets of starships. This customisation, combined with the game's challenging scenarios, provides an almost endless amount of replay value. Richard Borg is a well-respected game designer, best known for his Commands and Colours series of light wargames, including Memoir 44, Battle Law, and PSC Games' The Great War. If you have played any of the Command and Colours games, you will be on familiar ground with Red Alert. Red Alert is PSC Games' 10th Kickstarter campaign. Our previous successful campaigns include Richard Borg's The Great War and its French army and tank expansions. We hope that you will get behind us to make Richard's latest game another Kickstarter success story. Thank you.
Red Alert is, as mentioned previously, already over 150% funded, and you can reserve a copy of the game as well as any unlocked stretch goals at the $112 pledge level through June 26th. Expected delivery is in March of next year. So I have to say, if you are familiar with the Commands and Colors line, or, interestingly enough, I just did a review for Memoir 44 back on the 6th as to mark the 74th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. I gotta say, if you're familiar with that, this looks as if you're familiar with Commands and Colors or Memoir 44, this looks like it is just pretty much the exact system, just ported over with starships out into space. I don't know how I feel about a $112 pledge to receive this game. Now, I understand it's not played on a board, it is played on a big mat. So the mat is supposed to be pretty large. But still, I don't know. To me, it seems a little pricey. And I like the Richard Borg designs because they're a nice introduction to wargaming for many people. And they're fairly lightweight. This could be pretty cool, but to me, my opinion, just seems a little bit pricey. There are some additional add-ons you can add, and I believe you can get other fleets because it's supposed to be, I believe, for 2 to 6 players. I don't know. You're gonna break up a fleet between 3 players on each side? I can't tell you. The artwork looks pretty cool too. Okay, so there is a rather abstract-looking card game that has been generating a lot of buzz, and I gotta be honest, I don't know why, but I do have the dope on The Mind coming from Pandasaurus Games. Here's the dope. The Mind is more than just a game. It's an experiment, a journey, a team experience in which you can't exchange information, yet will become one to defeat all the levels of the game. In more detail, the deck contains cards numbered 1 through 100, and during the game, you try to complete 12, 10, or 8 levels of play with 2, 3, or 4 players. In a level, each player receives a hand of cards equal to the number of the level. 1 card in level 1, 2 cards in level 2, etc. You collectively must play these cards into the center of the table on a single discard pile in ascending order, but you cannot communicate with one another in any way as to which cards you hold. You simply stare into one another's eyes, and when you feel the time is right, you play your lowest card. If no one holds a card lower than what you've played, great! The game continues. If someone did, all players discard face up all cards lower than what was played, and you lose 1 life. You start the game with a number of lives equal to the number of players. Lose all your lives, and you, obviously enough, will lose the game. You start with one shuriken as well, and if everyone wants to use a shuriken, each player discards their lowest card face up, giving everyone information and getting you closer to completing the level. As you complete levels, you might receive a reward of a shuriken or an extra life. Complete all the levels and you win. For an extra challenge, play the mind in extreme mode with all played cards going onto the stack face down. You don't look at the cards played until the end of a level, losing lives at that time for cards played out of order. The mind is for 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, and plays in around 15 minutes. The game will arrive in July and carry an MSRP of $14.99. Now, I could have swore I had another image for this game, but I guess not. I'm just double checking here. It's not popping up. So this game has been generating a lot of buzz. A lot of people are talking about it, and I gotta admit, I kind of dig the artwork, the cartoonish artwork on the box cover. But the reality is, the vast majority of the cards in this game are just simply with numbers on them. Now, if you're a follower of thegaminggang.com, if you watch the Daily Dope from time to time, you probably already know I'm not the biggest fan of abstract kind of games or abstract puzzly sort of games. This seems like this is probably fun. Pandasaurus Games does nice games, you know, don't get me wrong. To me, I just don't understand what all the... It's not hype. I almost said hype. It's not hype coming from Pandasaurus Games. But there are a lot of people out there who cover gaming who are all just peeing themselves over this game. And I gotta be honest, I don't know why. All right, moving right along. Wizards of the Coast revealed their next adventure series for Dungeons & Dragons just last week. And now, WizKids Games, or I guess I should just say WizKids, has revealed their newest pre-painted minis, which are going to be coming out, and they are for Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Oh yes. And of course, they are going to be in booster packs, so it is a blind draw. Anyway, here's the dope. WizKids is excited to announce the upcoming release of the newest addition to its D&D Icons of the Realms line of pre-painted miniatures, Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Based on the newest Dungeons & Dragons story, Waterdeep Dragon Heist is scheduled to release this fall and features exciting and compelling characters, both heroic and villainous, including the human warlock of the Fiend, the devilish Pit Fiend, and the founder of the Zentarium, the mysterious Manshoon. I don't know. This is a new adventure coming out, so how are we supposed to know about this stuff? Anyway, also featured among the 44 figures from Waterdeep Dragon Heist are several popular animals for all of your wild-shaped needs, such as the tactical direwolf and the vicious brown bear. Icons of the Realms Waterdeep Dragon Heist Standard Edition boosters will contain 4 figures, 1 large or 1 unique huge figure, and 3 medium or small figures. Additionally, customers who pre-order an Icons of the Realms Waterdeep Dragon Heist Standard Booster Case will have the opportunity to purchase the City of the Dead Statues and Monuments Case Incentive promotional set while supplies last. This gorgeous set of miniatures includes several beautifully carved statues and monuments, as well as several coffins that can be used in a variety of locations. Experience the bustling city of Waterdeep, get to know its thrilling characters, and immerse yourself in the adventure with D&D Icons of the Realms Waterdeep Dragon Heist. The new pre-painted miniatures boosters will arrive in September, and the boosters themselves will carry an MSRP of $15.99. The City of the Dead Statues and Monuments set will carry an MSRP of $49.99. I think that's cool. I honestly think it's cool. I like the WizKids pre-paints. The pre-paints are really nice. I don't have any previews of any of the figures outside of what we can kind of see on the side of the booster. The bear looks cool from what I've been able to see. But normally we don't get to see any preview images of any of the pre-paints until about a month or so before the product comes out. That's usually how WizKids operates. But pretty cool. I'm looking forward to the new adventure. It's been a while since we had a new D&D adventure, so I'm pretty pumped about that. And, of course, now you're going to have the Dragon Heist minis for use with playing Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And, of course, when the Dungeon of the Mad Mage arrives, I will bet money WizKids is going to have figures for that too. Speaking of miniatures, a long out-of-print mission pack and minis are about to make a return for Shadows of Brimstone from Flying Frog Games, and I've got the dope. Shadows of Brimstone is a fast-paced, fully cooperative dungeon crawl board game set in the Old West, with a heavy dose of unspeakable horror. For over 2,000 years, the Order of the Crimson Hand has operated in secret, growing within the dark shadows of civilization. They are a clandestine society committed to seeking out ancient and mystical artifacts and gathering occult texts to further their nefarious agendas. Performing black rituals in the night, the Crimson Hand are known for dabbling in dark magic and forbidden knowledge. Spreading their tendrils of deceit and corruption, the Order has infiltrated all levels of society, using their sinister influence to start wars, topple monarchies, and swell their ranks with everyone from mindless thugs to world leaders and aristocrats. They will stop at nothing to achieve their mad desire for wealth, power, and eternal life. Oh ho. This mission pack contains a set of nefarious Crimson Hand cultists, in fact a dozen of them, a new objective room map tile, over 40 new cards themed for these fanatical enemies, and 4 new missions that create a narrative story campaign. I do believe the Order of the Crimson Hand originally came out in 2015 and has not been available from Flying Frog since. Now, of course, the Order of the Crimson Hand will arrive in stores in July, and it will carry an MSRP of $44.95. So yes, very cool. I like Shadows of Brimstone. I haven't played a ton of it, and I gotta be honest, I only have the one core box, which I've got the Swamps of Death. But Elliot Miller has a few more, and we've played like 3 times. And it's kind of cool. I like it. I wish he or I or both of us could actually get the minis painted up, but because I don't know, I've said it before, miniatures games, unpainted minis just leave me like, And when they're my own miniatures, I feel kind of bummed about it all. So, anywho. All right, so I am going to have another free RPG Day highlight for you to consider in just a moment. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. Number one, sad news today with Anthony Bourdain committing suicide. It was, geez, you know, it's just, that's the second high-profile suicide this week to hit the news, and it's just, and as far as I understand, suicide rates are rocketing, depression, and I mean, you know, and everybody gets depressed. I mean, let's be honest here. Yeah, it's not as if life is a just constant roller coaster thrill ride. It's a roller coaster, maybe not a thrill ride. But if you have those kind of thoughts and that, reach out to somebody. You'd be amazed. You probably have way more people who care about you in this world than you may imagine. So anyway, yeah, that was, I hated to see that. It's just, I never like to see that stuff. And I don't live in a vacuum, right? I don't just always talk game. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to also mention is Origins Game Fair is coming up next week. I'm sure if you watch the show, you already know I'll be covering the show. Elliot Miller and I always team up because we fly solo for our own outlets. at Origins. Gen Con and San Diego Comic Con, bit different. But we usually team up and I help him shoot his video. He helps me shoot my video. But just so you know, what's I'm kind of game planning is that I will try to have some videos pop up for some interviews, during Origin. So we won't be there Wednesday, but we'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and probably for just a couple hours on Sunday because it's Father's Day. I want to kind of get back home, especially Elliot since he is a dad. But anyway, I was going to say what you can look for is I'm going to try to get some interviews up same day. Now, it's not going to be all the interviews that I do at Origins. Some I will actually feature on the Daily Dope afterwards. Maybe release them as separate videos. I'm not sure yet. Something else I'm going to try to do too is get some video of some game demos. And not where it's just, 3 minutes or something like that, but an actual video of us playing an entire game or learning a game or something along those lines. So I'm aiming to try to do that. And we're probably looking at filming those at night in the evenings, in like open gaming or with some of the companies in that. And of course, I have reached out to quite a few people I am friends with in the industry to try to set up some interviews too. So there's going to be plenty of coverage, probably around 15 interviews overall is what I figure. I don't want to overdo it. It was, not that long ago, March 15th, when I had the heart attack. So I don't want to do go crazy, but I think about 5 interviews a day should be plenty. Okay. So anyway, as I mentioned, I do want to talk about another free RPG highlight. In fact, it's a couple of highlights that you'll want to consider getting into your hot little hands next Saturday. As I mentioned, in fact, you'll have 2 options, and they're coming from Goodman Games. And I've got the dope from Goodman Games. Did you know that Goodman Games is one of the originators of Free RPG Day? Joseph Goodman is one of the brains behind the concept of Free RPG Day, and we have been a part of every one since its inception. Did you further know that Free RPG Day is June 16th? I would hope you would. I've been talking about it every show. Anyway, that puts it right around the corner. If you want to be part of it, we suggest you plan now for your big gaming day. Visit freerpgday.com to find a retailer near you. Let me grab a quick sip here. I've been saying this, Goodman Games is saying this as well. Make sure to get to the store early since many stores sell out. And since we've been a part of every one of them, you know that Goodman Games is going to be a big part of this year's event, right? In fact, we're excited to offer 2 freebies this year. Here are our 2 releases. There's 5th edition fantasy number 14, Beneath the Keep, written by Chris Doyle. It's a level 1 adventure for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. During a brief stopover at a wilderness stronghold, a simple trip to a local provisioner reveals foul play. The shop has been broken into and the shopkeeper is missing, but the place has not been burglarized. The heroes are thrust into an investigation. Clues discovered by the heroes hint at larger corruption that festers among the borderlands surrounding the stronghold. What sinister forces lurk beneath the keep? This all-new 5e adventure module includes new magic items, a new spell, and is ready to play right now! Okay, not right now, but on the 16th. Then there's Dungeon Crawl Classics Quick Start Rules, a new version of the Quick Start Rules featuring a new adventure. This year's QSR includes all the rules you need to play a Dungeon Crawl Classic RPG game from level 0 through level 1, as well as an all-new adventure, Man Bait for the Soul Stealer, a level 2 adventure by Terry Olson. A Shield Maiden statue begs for liberation. Will the party brave the steaming pits of Odag, her Elemancer master, and kill him to free her? His island lair is guarded by elemental monstrosities, but Odag's treasure awaits one brave enough to claim it. Only the PCs can save the stone damsel. In addition, this year's Quick Start rules include different spells than last year. We've also taken a second pass at streamlining, so this QSR is more compact than last year's. It's still 100% the same game as regular DCC at levels 0 through 2. But now the Quick Start rules are even more exciting and streamlined. Sweet! So I will point out, Dungeon Crawl Classics and the 5e Adventure, since Goodman is a platinum, I believe they're platinum. I'm almost positive they're a platinum sponsor. I believe there are 15 of each in each promotional box that your friendly local game store will receive. Now, keep in mind, some of your friendly local game stores only get one. And I've been saying this all week long. I'm going to repeat myself again. The RPGs are free to you. They are not free to the store. So if you do pop in for free RPG day and you get something, spend a few bucks. Help keep your local store around. I know I talk about online retailers and that, not as if I'm, affiliated, but I do mention sometimes that, hey, this is the MSRP for this one game, but I've seen it as low as XYZ online. That doesn't mean I've got anything against friendly local gaming stores. I'm just trying to save you folks a little bit of money. That's all. Anyway, so I believe there's 15 copies of each. So if not 15, then there's 10. Because if they're not platinum, then they're gold. And I think gold is 10. But pretty cool. You get two options. You get either the 5th edition D&D Adventure, or you can get the Quick Start rules for Dungeon Crawl Classics. I have never looked at DCC. And, all right, I don't know if I've ever made this public or anything like that. I am not a huge proponent of the old school Renaissance. And that's nothing against Goodman Games, because Goodman Games has been around for a long time. They've produced stuff for Call of Cthulhu, all different systems in that. But and I'm throwing out this disclaimer that I've never looked at Dungeon Crawl Classics, but I have seen some other OSR releases out there, and I was messing around with the first white box edition of Dungeons and Dragons back when I was a preteen, and so I recall it. It's not like I'm intimately familiar, because we're talking, this is 40 years ago, right? But it just the old school Renaissance stuff, a lot of it is just real basic stuff. A lot of crunch, but a lot of kind of useless crunch. Now, once again, I am not saying that this is Dungeon Crawl Classics. In fact, if I get a chance, I'm going to try to see, because sometimes, I'm not sure if Goodman does it, but I know a lot of the other companies do. They'll release the PDFs for the adventure or the Quick Start rules around July. A couple of weeks, 3 weeks after Free RPG Day. I will take a peek. I might even take a peek to see if they got a Quick Start that's floating around in PDF, because I've heard good stuff about Dungeon Crawl Classics. I've heard good stuff about Mutant Crawl Classics too, which is kind of a old school Renaissance sort of like Gamma World-ish, but like old Gamma World, where it kind of had a little tongue in cheek, a little humor to it, a little silliness, which is fun. So anyway, all right, so that is my Free RPG Day highlights for today. Anyway, as far as looking at Armageddon War from Flying Pig Games, so I get this box yesterday, and it was a pretty good-sized box. I was like, oh, hey, wonder what's in here. Now, I knew that Eddie and Mark over at Flying Pig were sending Armageddon War, so I was like, oh, okay. But I wasn't expecting a pretty big box. So not only did I receive Armageddon War, which was a very successful Kickstarter for Flying Pig, I also received Burning Lands, which is an expansion for Armageddon War. I received what appears to be an extra set of dice and a set of cards, which I actually have no idea what these. I see there's an American flag. Sorry, you're getting some glare here. So I can tell there's an American flag on that. Taking a guess, these are probably some sort of unit cards. Whoops. And then I got a strategy guide. So I got a strategy guide for Armageddon War with a little bit of an ad for Old School Tactical Volume 2 on the back, which is excellent, excellent game. So then there's a campaign, the 600, for Armageddon War. And then I got an extra add-on, Alone in the Desert, which is a solitaire expansion for Armageddon War. So what I'll probably do now, we're going to take a look at Armageddon War today. And then next Wednesday, I might unbox and take a peek at Burning Lands. And then probably in the future, we'll take a peek at all the expansion stuff all just on one day. So, all right. So, anywho, speaking of Armageddon War, it is from Flying Pig Games. It's designed by Greg Porter and Mark Walker. It's for 1 to 2 players, ages 12 and up. Now, I'm not sure if it's solitaire out of the box or because I just took a peek at, I just showed you the little, like, solitaire expansion. Maybe that's just like an extra campaign. Anyway, I do understand scenarios should play out in around an hour. Now, Armageddon War will normally carry an MSRP of $100, but you can still order the game from Flying Pig right now, as of right now. Tomorrow it could change. I'm just telling you, as of June 8th, right now, you can get Armageddon War from Flying Pig for a pre-order price of $75. All right, let's switch on over to the other camera. Pop this on down. As I mentioned, this is a good-sized box. This is a really good-sized box. That's my hand. And I pointed out before, I don't have huge hands, but I don't have tiny little hands either. So it is platoon-level combat in the End War. So from my understanding, and I could be way off base because I have not cracked this open, Armageddon War is supposed to take place in a near future. It's a near future setting. So I believe the weaponry and things like that we're going to run across are going to be pretty much modern day. I don't think we're going to see like a huge, like, you know, science fiction-ish level to some of the vehicles and weapons and things like that. But it is supposed to be in a near future. I believe there's like famine and plague and things like that have struck like the major countries of the world. And now everybody's decided they're going to be fighting over the Middle East. So I believe that is the case. I kind of get the impression that the rules will not be overly difficult to understand, seeing that, well, here on the box it's saying 14 and up. I want to say, I thought it might have been the website info, or maybe it was Board Game Geek was saying 12 and up. But anyway, let's see what we've got on the back. It says, Armageddon War is a platoon-level game set in the near future. Following disease, famine, and economic collapse among the world's first-line powers, conventional war erupts in the Mideast for what arable land remains. Wow, if they're battling in the Middle East over arable land, everybody must be in really bad shape. Because not that all the Middle East is a complete desert, but it says old allies join the carnage and the war grows, pitting age-old adversaries and their new friends against each other. Armageddon War depicts the chaos amid this war. Armageddon War is a unique game. There are no turns, just continuous activations. The intensity of a unit's close combat modifier is determined not only by its weapons, but also by the tactics you choose to use for the assault or defense. And when you fire on a unit, it has the option of taking cover or returning fire. The number of dice and the color of dice rolled determine the number of hits, not complex tables. Formations are activated by chit draw. Nothing new there. That's kind of funny. It actually says that. Nothing new there. I like chit draw. I like games with chit draw. Keeps you on your toes. Really does. But return to the draw cup not at the end of a turn, but rather in a continuous manner. When chosen, a formation marker is placed on the activation track to the right of the last drawn formation. When only one chit remains in the cup, the two leftmost chits are returned to the draw cup. Simple, continuous. All right. So I also believe that Armageddon War utilizes those really cool, big, chunky 1-inch counters that a lot of the Flying Pig games have been coming out with. I certainly dig that. That way, especially being 50 years old and sometimes having to whip out reading glasses and that, the bigger the counter, the better, in my opinion. All right, so let's get this opened up. So one thing I am hoping is that the one of the knocks, not that there were many, but one of the knocks that I had for Old School Tactical Volume 2 was that it just had one big, massive map, one big, massive game board. It wasn't sectional, which, in my opinion, kind of took away from the options that you had available. Because, of course, if you have various different map pieces that you can move around, it gives you a lot more options with, you know, how you set up the battlefield. Unfortunately, it was just one big map for Old School Tactical. I mean, it wasn't like a game breaker, deal breaker. I just thought it would have been cooler. All right, so it looks like we got a bunch of dice. We got black, red, and green. It looks as if we've got hits and shields on these. So let's take a peek. So I'll take a guess that it looks like the red have quite a lot of hits, quite a lot of shields on them. It's like the black might be the next in line, possibly, as far as the different sides, and then green might be the lowest because I'm seeing blank faces on this die. So, as we saw in the description, I was talking about the type of dice you roll. So that is cool there. So we got a bunch of dice. We've got the rule book. We're going to take a peek at that in just a sec. Looks like we got a lot of counters too. Cool. Reference sheet too. So first off, let me grab a sip here. It's a little dry down here again in the Duct Tape Studios today. Move this over a little bit so my mug isn't blocking off some cool stuff. So as I had mentioned, the game is designed by Greg Porter, and it says it's a Mark Walker game. So let's see. We got some credits back here, maybe? No. Maybe they're in front. Maybe Mark did the development on this. Yeah, well, it says he was a playtester. Oh, come on. Mark obviously probably did some game development, but it is not a Mark H. Walker design, just so you know. So we've got a... excuse me. We've got an introduction. So it looks like it was 2028. So about 10 years in the future is when this is taking place. So Armageddon War, or just Geddon War. So talking about dice concepts. So it says strikes are possible hits and the shield is possible counterfire. Gotcha. Talking about dice, number of dice you'll roll, modifiers. Talking about counter concepts, counter descriptions, support weapon counters, nationalities. So there's the Islamic State. There's also rebels, Israel, the United States, and Russia. Those are the nationalities who are fighting. We've got administration counters, admin counters, basically action step, damage counters, the turn structure, drawing a command chit, upkeep actions, morale recovery. Logistics, initiative, which I guess looks like that's an optional rule. Unit actions, end of formation actions, terrain. Well, I'm going to take a stab here and say the 12 and up is probably incorrect wherever I ran across that info. So it looks like there's quite a bit going on here. But I have to say that usually, now this was kind of the case with Old School Tactical, is that the scenarios, the way the scenarios were laid out, was kind of gave you a way to ramp up the learning curve as you went, right? It wasn't like you had to dive on in and every single rule was in place. So, for an example, first scenario or two was basically firefights with infantry. Then you started to get armor, artillery, things like that added into the mix. So we're talking about moving, fire, close combat, combat overall, fire combat, line of sight, obstacle height, determining your firepower, specialized attacks and defenses, clearing a defensive status, or defense status, I should say, combined fire, flanking, counter fire, assigning damage. Cool, man. There's a lot to this. Close combat. Close combat modifiers. Looks like we've got kind of an example here. Red is the attacker. Black is the defender. Got advanced rules. Limited munitions. Snipers. Hidden units. Yeah, a lot of times hidden units are a little tough in some war games, especially hex and counter games. Usually you have to kind of jot down on a piece of paper, okay, this is the hex number that XYZ unit might be in. And I don't know, myself personally, a lot of times I would forget. I would forget I had something there, or forget exactly where it was. All right, so we've got air units, helicopters, drones, ground attack fighters. There's civilians. Unit keywords. Here's a nice example of play. Then we get into the scenarios. Look like there's 15 scenarios here. So, scenario 1, holding action, evacuation, street fight. Looks like it's mainly a lot of fighting against ISIL. Assassination attempt, playing with fire. Rhymes with Yerk. Burning Sands. Unfriendly Skies. Steel Ghosts. Yeah, it kind of looks sort of along the lines of the kind of, learning system for Old School Tactical. Although, obviously, this is a completely different system. But it looks as if the first scenario or two are just infantry. Okay, so then we've got Rogue Platoon. Looks like that's a solitaire scenario. High-tech, low-tech. Fallujah Light. Strange Bedfellows. Now we start seeing that these are quite a bit longer scenarios. Oh, guess not. Only that one was 2 pages. So, Strange Bedfellows, and then Knife Fight. And it appears that each scenario, if there's any special scenario rules, we've got the various different units that are in the game itself, victory conditions, tactics, and then a terrain combat reference. All right, now let's take a look at some of these counters. Dual-sided, very nice, very big. Actually, I'm going to have to pop my reading specs on here. It's basically because I have to hold these so far off from me. So it looks like we've got the various armor. I take a guess. Maybe these are headquarters. Possible those are headquarter units. And we got militia, smoke. Cool, very cool. as I mentioned, dual-sided. So this looks like these are probably, oh, right here. Well, no, it just says CS3 front. These look more like Soviet and ISIL units here. All right, these are the, those are kind of cool. We take a close look there. So it starts showing like the action. Then it shows shaken, pinned. Flip these over. These are also show shaken and pinned. Looks like we got vehicle wrecks as well on some of them. So that's kind of cool. So I guess it's basically, well, they all look kind of, oh, okay, so there's a modifier. Looks like we've got a modifier of some sort here. So -1, -2, -3 on those. All right, then it looks like, looks as if we've got kind of additional weapons. Looks like light machine guns. Yeah, sure enough. It's exactly missiles, IEDs. Wow. Logistics. Got logistic counters here. Hidden counters. I'm sure some of these, use, some are real and some are dummies. So these are dual-sided as well. Let's see. Looks like, okay, so here we have rebels. Looks like we've got rebels and probably, Israelis. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So we've got rebel units and Israelis. And it appears the infantry units are indicated by their weapon, right? So here we see it says rebel militia. I believe that's, we're not actually seeing, an infantry soldier on the counters. It looks like they're being represented by the weapon itself, the weapon that squad, or I guess not, it's platoon level. But yeah, I'm certain that these are probably broken up. These are squads. Cool. And then got the Russians there. Nice. Very cool. Then we get a reference. Whoops. Got a reference sheet here. Like lots of info. So it's explaining the actions, penalty. Okay, so I kind of had a feeling that the penalty is a subtraction from the firepower of the unit, or for counterfire or any other combat. So when we saw that negative on the counters that kind of have like an arrow point to them, that's coming off their firepower, their attacks, basically. So there we go. Kind of cool. It's showing you, okay, here's a breakdown. This is how the counters work. So firepower type and range, movement value and type, defensive value, special note, formation name, and nationality. So it looks like that has a firepower of 7, range of 9, 8 for movement. It's tracked. Got a defense of 4. Nice. And then on the back is that terrain chart that we saw earlier. So we've got 2 of those. And then we got the map. Wow, looks like pretty big. Now we got two parts of this map. Yep. Wow, it's pretty large. Okay. So there's 2 of these. So there's 2 maps of this size. So here we've got, it's like this is an airport down here, or at least airfield. Yeah, what am I thinking? Airport? Yeah, okay. It's two transport planes there. I don't think it's an airport. I think it's an airfield. So this is map 2, and we see that there's a command track down here. Let's see if I can kind of show that off a little bit. Because, as always, space is at a premium. So we get a command track along this side here. And then there's another track that goes up to 9 over here, which I'm taking a guess that might be where you're putting those activation chits. It's very, very possible. Okay, and then we got looks like we've got a city here. Cool. Really nice. Single side. It's not dual-sided. So that's first. And then here's the second. Just kind of try to take a peek at this. I always try to be as careful as I can with these boards and that, because it's pretty easy to tear the game boards. And of course it's upside down, but looks like that's a town. And once again, we get the command track, and then the other track along the side here, and then the different those look like just villages, settlements, something like that. And then different terrain. Looks like we got hills here. These are probably fields. Cool. Unfortunately, yeah, they're big old maps and not modular, but at least we had 2 different ones, so we can actually kind of get a bit of, variation here. One thing that I would have probably floated out was go with modular maps, and the reason why that probably wasn't in the decision was because of the track that runs here. But you could easily just create like a sideboard that could have gone like under, below the map, below the board someplace. But that is cool. Very cool. I'm looking forward to digging into this, because you don't see a ton of modern or near modern war games so much anymore. Everything's always, and which is cool, don't get me wrong. Got a lot of World War II. We've been seeing some more World War I. My good buddy Herman Lettman was tackling the Franco-Prussian War. So there's a lot of variety out there for war gamers, but not so much modern anymore. And when we see modern games, it's usually a hypothetical World War III in Europe during the 80s. That's usually, a World War III taking place in Germany. East and West Germany is what we would usually see a lot of. All right, so as I mentioned, we've got the 2 reference cards here. We've got 2 mounted maps, nice big mounted maps. We have 5 sheets of big 1-inch counters. We've got a slew of dice, as well as the rule book for Armageddon War. And as I mentioned before, this is shipping out. This has been going out to Kickstarter backers, as far as I understand. You can still get on board with the core game. Save yourself 25%, because it normally carries an MSRP of $100, but currently you can snag it for a pre-order price of $75. So pretty sweet, looks pretty good, looks pretty meaty, looks like a nice meaty experience. Now real quick, I want to take a peek here. Let's see, almost feels like Burning Lands might have another map board in it. Of course I got a bunch of glare. I'm just kind of curious who's included, what happens in this expansion here. Looks like might be Hezbollah is included in this. Oh, it's in Northwest Jordan, so probably Jordanian forces as well. Nice. Reason I think there might be a map in here is because this has some heft to it. So I'm taking a guess this might have another map board. All right, so there you have it. Nice to get our hands on something new. Of course, after Origins, there's going to be tons of new stuff. But, and I had mentioned before, kind of, when you got a convention coming up within, like couple of weeks. A lot of times the companies kind of slow down sending out the review copies of stuff because they figure they're going to be at the convention. You're going to be there too. You can pick up the review copies for them. That happens quite a lot. So anyway, so cool to get some new stuff out. All right, that's it for today's show. And when you're not watching The Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Well, by now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Have a great weekend. I will be back on Monday. I think we'll have shows Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because I'm not leaving for Columbus until Wednesday night. I should be able to get a show out. Anyway, in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Have a very safe weekend. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.